interesting topic that I wanted to talk about for empaths is the topic of empathic burnout. And I've talked about this before in terms of when we get burnt out from stretching from exploring other people's emotional bodies too much and plugging into other people's emotions. And I talked a lot about, any of you who followed my stuff know that I recommend unplugging from people and paying attention to how you feel, like always connecting to what you feel. But one of the things that I've noticed recently, I've had two different experiences where, because I do a lot of out-of-body work or meditating and shamanic journeying, that kind of stuff, when you have extrasensory abilities, which being empathic is one of them, the ability to feel other energies or stretch out. If you're ever doing that kind of work, like meditative work or connecting to universal energy or whatever you want to call it, out-of-body work, you can stretch to the point where you get empathic burnout that direction as well. So one of the things that I've been practicing is not reading anybody at all, not connecting to not as much as I possibly can, unplugging from paying attention to what other people feel and really focusing on me. So it's really just a matter of focus. I've changed my focus and it's helped me get to know me better. But as I've been doing a ton of shamanic journeying, a ton of meditation, and a ton of out-of-body work, and it's something that I'm really growing in a lot. And 2 different times now, I've stretched my energy out so far that I have had a hard time getting back in my body. In other words, like getting back to the point where I even know, just how I've talked about before, when you get too entangled with people and you can lose the sense of where you end and they begin. The same sort of idea, but with the universe or with multidimensionality. And I want to actually open this subject because I don't know if other empaths have experienced this, but I have done it to the point where I stretch so far out multidimensionally that I have a very difficult time finding my way back into me, into who Amanda is. And I almost lose, I've had 2 different times I've had such a scary experience to where I've gone so far out that as I'm trying to get back in and come back into, like, okay, I'm Amanda, this is my room, this is like, and this is not drug induced either, this is purely meditation induced. But I've had the experience of not having a sense of who I am, like stretching that far out empathically that I lose a sense of who I am. And when I'm doing that, when I've done that intentionally, I'm downloading a bunch of information. So a lot of times I'll be channeling almost, or writing a bunch of stuff down, or connecting to other dimensional aspects of me, or other timelines, other dimensions, whatever you want to call it. But just exploring other realms of consciousness. So it can crack your reality if you stretch too far. And I usually don't, but like I said, I've had 2 different times recently where I've stretched too far, and I've had to really calm myself down. I mean, I really have to, because it's scary. It's almost like, wait a second, I feel like I could disconnect to the point where my reality cracks to the point that I would go insane. That's what it feels like. Insane meaning I can't tell which reality I'm in. And so I've come to realize that Amanda, the particular avatar body that I'm in this life, is my touch point, and it's absolutely crucial that at all times, no matter what I'm doing, I'm connecting with her. So in the same way that I have suggested unplugging from other people, when you do altered states of consciousness or work like that, out-of-body work, multidimensional work, whatever you want to call it, super important to pay attention to how you feel at all times and check in a lot to the body, the physical body, and the ego of Amanda, of what your current reality is. And this is really interesting because I've done videos before on spirituality and mental illness, and this is not something I have explored because I never, other than these 2 times, have experienced it to that point where I've almost, my reality is almost cracked to the point where I can't tell where I'm at. And I think it's because I've just been intentionally, purposefully, really exploring this side of me and really going deep in meditation more than I ever have in my life, and I'm learning. And so it's just a topic I wanted to talk about specifically for empaths, and if you're a strong channeler, the aspect of making sure you stay in contact with yourself and what you need at all times. At all times, because the energy that's out there, just like people, the energy field is vast and infinite. And so you can swim in it forever. And it's important to know boundaries. Just like having boundaries with other people is really important as an empath. And what that means is just being able to say yes to what you need so you can keep a sense of who you are. I have found that it goes the same way universally with other entities or subtle energy or other dimensions or whatever you want to call it. You know, everyone has different beliefs about what it is. But regardless, tapping into energy, super important to have boundaries. And boundaries meaning, what do I need and how far can I push myself? Because I've even in my own healing, I've been doing a lot of empathic healing with myself, and even my physical body. I'll get in a deep meditative place and then relax completely into the energy around me, just the energy in the room, and move my body with the energy, with the intention of moving certain trauma out or whatever. And that's been super intense. But even that, I've had to be super, super attentive to my body. And okay, how are you doing? What do you need? Because I've pushed myself a little too far at times, and I've actually hurt, like, stretch. It's almost like being in yoga and stretching too much, except for its energy. It's hard to explain unless you do it, and I know a lot of you who watch my videos do. So as you're healing, as you're going through a healing journey, as you're opening up to your abilities, as you're learning what your limitations are, it is super important that you honor them. The limitations do not mean weakness. It's just honoring where you're at, and you will get stronger if you do that. But if you push yourself beyond the boundaries of what you can handle, it can have some serious consequences. So I've learned that relationally, and now I'm learning that, I guess what you would call metaphysically, like on every level and in every realm. It's super important to have boundaries, super important to set intentions, take care of yourself, and always be aware of how you feel and what you need. And then another suggestion that was given to me by my friend Teal, a lot of you know Teal Swan, I talked to her about the last time that this just happened recently, that I went a little too far out to the point where I was having a really hard time getting back in. And one of the things that she suggested to me, which I thought was really, really wise, is to get in contact with sensual pleasures as much as possible. So to open that side again. So it's that making love to the physical universe around you, and it helps you stay grounded. So anything that helps you stay grounded and connected to the physical. So it can be food, it can be any sort of sensual pleasure, sex, anything like that, but anything that can keep you grounded in the physical. And then another thing that she mentioned, which I thought is really important to think about when you're, especially when you're kind of doing out-of-body work and disconnecting, even though you're never really disconnecting from you, but if you're pushing outside of your own ego, is to, if you ever have an experience where you go too far out and you're having a hard time reconnecting to who you are, a good thing to ask yourself is, why don't I want to come back? Why don't I want to come back into my body? And a lot of us, by the way, for those of you who, I think everybody goes out of body while they're sleeping or explore other states of consciousness, however you want to describe it. So a lot of us do this in our sleep. And if you've ever had an experience where you can't wake up or you can't wake yourself up, or even when you wake up you have a hard time reconnecting with where you're at, very similar sort of thing. I'm just doing it in my conscious hours. So the point is if you feel a resistance to coming back into 3D, it's important to ask yourself, why? Why do I not want to come back? And explore that as well, because typically, most likely, there's probably wounds or some sort of bypassing going on with your experience in the physical. So I just wanted to throw that out there, because I know that I've talked about having boundaries with people, but I've never really talked about having boundaries with other entities and just the spirit, or the, whatever you want to call it, the unconscious realm, period. Like, you always get to choose what you want and how far you want to go, and always check in with yourself. What do I need? How do I feel? What do I need? Even when you're in altered states of consciousness. Okay, hope you're all doing well. Ciao.